events leading to Dishaye Stevenson's death began with moments that appeared celebratory. A birthday gift of $10,000 in cash, and a wedding that was described as lavish and carefully planned. These public milestones suggested progress, stability, and a future the couple intended to build together. But the sequence that followed would shift the narrative entirely. Weeks after the celebrations, Dishaye was found on the side of a Dallas roadway with a fatal gunshot wound to the chest. There were no signs of robbery, no struggle at the scene, and no indication that a stranger was involved. Investigators examined her final movements and quickly focused on the person closest to her, her husband, Michael Smith. Evidence gathered from surveillance footage, shell casings inside his vehicle, and inconsistencies in his timeline connected him directly to the final hours before her death. The contrast between recent celebrations and the emerging facts became a central part of the investigation. This story leads viewers through the difference between what was publicly shown and what was privately unfolding. It raises questions about the rapid change from celebration to tragedy, and how the truth of a relationship often becomes visible only when the consequences can no longer be reversed. You're watching Crimelens Uncovered, where the spotlight of social media casts the darkest shadows. Subscribe if you want the unfiltered truth behind the trending hashtags, because by the time a story explodes online, the tragedy has already happened. Now let's dive in. Dishaye Stevenson was a 35-year-old entrepreneur based in Dallas, Texas, known for operating her business, Shame on 3Y Purses and More LLC, where she sold fashion accessories and personal items. Through her business, she maintained a consistent online presence, promoting products, managing orders, and engaging with customers to build a reliable client base. Dishaye Stevenson maintained a close, consistent, and hands-on relationship with her 16-year-old daughter. She was known within her family as a deeply involved mother who prioritized her daughter's stability and well-being, even while balancing multiple demanding responsibilities at home. Relatives said Dishaye never left her daughter, highlighting her constant presence and the dependable routine she built around school, home life, and family obligations. At the same time, she was the primary caregiver for her partially paralyzed mother, yet she still ensured her daughter felt supported, supervised, and emotionally anchored. She paid for major costs within her marriage, including utility bills and personal purchases, and she financed their wedding and purchased the couple's rings. She also gifted her husband $10,000 in cash for his birthday, reflecting her role as the primary financial contributor within the household. These contributions were consistent with her lifestyle and demonstrated a pattern of responsibility and control over her personal and family finances. Publicly, Dishaye maintained an image of structure and organization. Her social media showcased her business operations, customer interactions, and daily routines. She shared content about packaging orders, managing inventory, and attending business-related events, projecting a life of productivity and reliability. While she appeared committed to her responsibilities, family members later described signs of tension and issues within her marriage that were not visible in public spaces. Any private difficulties remained undocumented until the investigation into her death brought them to light. Michael Smith's life before his wife's death forms a pattern of instability, conflict, and recurring criminal behavior. Born in a low-income neighborhood, he moved between relatives throughout his childhood, developing an early familiarity with street culture and minor offenses. By his teenage years, he had accumulated school suspensions linked to fights, theft, and truancy. His early adulthood continued the same trajectory, with short-term jobs, inconsistent employment, and several arrests tied to property damage, drug possession, and assault-related incidents. His first lengthy prison term came after a burglary conviction in his mid-20s. During incarceration, he maintained a reputation for rule violations, contraband possession, and frequent isolation placements due to confrontational behavior. Records noted limited participation in rehabilitation programs and minimal engagement in educational or vocational courses. He was released with mandatory supervision but struggled to adapt, cycling between temporary jobs and brief arrests for probation violations. Dishaye Stevenson and Michael Smith's relationship began as a romantic partnership that eventually progressed to marriage, although the exact circumstances of how they met are not publicly disclosed. The couple's engagement and wedding were described as lavish, with Dishaye reportedly funding significant portions of the ceremony, including the venue, catering, and wedding rings. She also assumed most of the household's financial responsibilities, covering bills, utilities, and other recurring expenses. Publicly, the couple appeared stable and committed, frequently sharing photographs and posts celebrating milestones and birthdays.
This one's for couples. 13 embarrassing questions. Who overthinks everything? Who showers less? Who is always eating? Who has a nicer butt? Who is more possessive? Who drools more? Who is a better driver? Who curses more? Who always sleeps in? Who is always on their phone? Who has the worst singing voice? Who takes the most selfies? Who is the lawbreaker?
However, family members later indicated there were underlying tensions, behavioral inconsistencies, and repeated arguments within the relationship. Although these incidents were not officially documented by law enforcement, Dishaye reportedly gave Michael Smith $10,000 in cash for his birthday, which was one of several financial contributions she made to support him personally. She also contributed to his other expenses while simultaneously managing her business ventures and career responsibilities. Sources suggest this financial imbalance created a dependency dynamic, with Dishaye acting as the primary provider and her husband's contributions being secondary. Witnesses and family members observed patterns of tension and control, which investigators later considered critical in reconstructing the events leading up to her death. While the couple presented a public image of harmony, these private interactions suggested consistent strain. The imbalance in decision-making and control appeared to create recurring conflict that went unreported and unnoticed by outsiders. Social interactions, family accounts, and witness statements described moments where Michael's behavior shifted abruptly, showing impatience or criticism, while Dishaye often minimized confrontations to avoid escalation. On the night of Dishaye Stevenson's death, investigators reconstructed the timeline using surveillance footage, forensic evidence, and records from Michael Smith's vehicle. Dishaye and Michael left their residence together in his car later in the evening. Surveillance cameras in the neighborhood captured the vehicle driving in the direction where her body was later discovered. During the drive, neighbors reported hearing noises consistent with an argument or disturbance inside the vehicle, though no one directly witnessed the events. Police later recovered shell casings from Michael's car that matched the firearm used in the shooting. Forensic examination confirmed that the fatal bullet struck Dishaye in the chest at close range, indicating the shooting occurred either inside the car or immediately after exiting it. Dishaye's body was found hours later on the side of a deserted road. Investigators confirmed that her hand showed no significant defensive injuries, suggesting she did not engage in prolonged resistance.
Dishaye Stevenson was bubbly, always the life of the party, and always loving on her family. 3! Making sure her 16-year-old daughter had it all, serving as a caregiver for her mom who had a stroke and is now partially paralyzed. And to top it off, trying to be the perfect wife.
She did everything in her power to show him that she loved him, no matter what.
But her sister Jasmine says somehow that love was not enough.
It was a lot of red flags.
Red flags the family didn't catch in time. Police found Stevenson's body Wednesday morning. She'd been shot point blank in the chest. Police say her husband, Michael Smith, is to blame.
GPS data from Michael's phone and vehicle placed him at the scene during the relevant time window. Additional physical evidence included fingerprints and gunpowder residue, consistent with the shooting occurring inside the vehicle. When questioned, Michael provided inconsistent accounts regarding the timeline, location, and sequence of events, which contrasted with the physical evidence. Investigators also reviewed cell phone records and social media activity, confirming no communication from Dishaye after leaving the residence, further narrowing the time frame of the incident. Forensic reconstruction and evidence collection established that the fatal act occurred within a limited window after the couple departed their home. Investigators were able to trace movements, interactions, and actions step by step, relying on surveillance, forensic evidence, and witness reports. The combination of these elements allowed authorities to link Michael directly to the act and reconstruct the circumstances of the shooting. In the legal proceedings following Dishaye Stevenson's death, her husband Michael Smith was arrested and charged with murder and held on a $1 million bond.
And officers began searching for Smith. They tracked him to this home. Video shows SWAT outside. But Smith wasn't there. A short time later, police tracked him here to a barbershop not far from that home, where cell phone video captures officers taking him into custody.
Prosecutors allege that Smith shot her after an argument during the drive, and reports indicate he left the scene before being located and arrested at a nearby barbershop. As of the most recent publicly available reports, Smith has been formally charged with murder, but there has been no confirmed trial date or resolution. Prosecutors are expected to rely on forensic evidence, including the shell casing and blood in the car, surveillance video, and his timeline as documented in the arrest warrant. There is no public record of his plea or defense strategy, nor of any pretrial motions, but the high bond reflects the seriousness of the charge and the perceived risk associated with the case. The case remains under investigation, and authorities continue to gather additional evidence to support the prosecution. The outcome will depend on how the forensic findings, eyewitness accounts, and Smith statements are interpreted in court. Legal experts note that in murder cases involving spouses, establishing intent and opportunity is central to the prosecution's argument, and the defense will likely focus on challenging the timeline and circumstances surrounding the events. After the death of Dishaye Stevenson, her family immediately became engaged in providing information to law enforcement and the public. They described Dishaye as a responsible and hard-working individual who cared for her household and her mother, who was partially paralyzed. Her siblings emphasized her dedication to supporting those around her and highlighted that her death was sudden, unexpected, and shocking given the apparent stability in her life. Family members acknowledged that there had been tension in the marriage, noting arguments and patterns of behavior that caused concern, though they stressed these had not previously suggested a risk of fatal violence. They described her as someone who consistently worked to maintain balance and stability, managing both personal and professional responsibilities, and attempting to keep the household functioning despite challenges. In the aftermath of her death, the family took an active role in raising awareness about domestic violence, advocating for the recognition of warning signs that may not be obvious to outsiders. They encouraged the public to understand that financial contributions, gifts, or outward appearances of a healthy relationship do not eliminate the possibility of danger. Their statements also called for a thorough investigation into Michael Smith's actions, emphasizing the need for accountability and transparency within the legal process. Through interviews and public statements, the family provided investigators with insight into Dishaye's routines, personality, and her interactions within the household. They requested privacy for themselves while allowing the investigation to continue without interference. Their observations and reflections became a critical part of the narrative, illustrating the contrast between the life Dishaye led and the circumstances that led to her death. The family's response framed the case not only as a criminal investigation, but also as a cautionary example regarding domestic dynamics, highlighting the importance of vigilance and awareness in relationships where warning signs may exist but go unnoticed. Their involvement has been instrumental in shaping both the legal proceedings and public understanding of the events leading to Dishaye Stevenson's death. And that concludes today's case. But remember, this is just one of countless hidden stories waiting to be brought to light. Here at Crimelens Uncovered, we're committed to digging beneath the surface, giving a voice to those who can no longer speak, and making sure their stories are never lost to time. If today's investigation gave you new perspective, just wait. There are more cases coming that will shock, disturb, and challenge the way you see the world. So don't forget to subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications, so you're always first to know when a new story drops. We release fresh investigations regularly, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's next. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and remember, The search for justice always begins with the truth. Crimelens Uncovered, where every case finds its voice.